Tonight, our facilitator is going to be Dr. Curtis Burton. Some of you may know him as I do because he had to repair a couple things. He's an outstanding orthopedic surgeon at Midwest Orthopedic Group and a lifelong resident of Hannibal. And he was gracious enough to agree to be tonight's facilitator. So Dr. Burton's going to explain how the rest of the forum will go, and I'll just be his assistant.
Okay. All right. Well, in a weak moment, I received a phone call, and I think Gail was actually a little surprised that I agreed to do this. And I assure you, this won't be a Jerry Springer type of evening. So, I am an expert on what happens when you fall on the ice. I'm not an expert on the school board workings, but I'm very interested, primarily because I don't know why anybody in their right mind would want to do this job, but I'm very interested to find out some things about this. So, a couple things, just a couple ground rules. We'll start off. Each of you will have a chance to just spend 1 minute just either answering why you want to do this and some things about yourself, just a general introduction for our audience, and then we'll basically have a list of questions that have come and been written by our audience. You'll have a chance to respond within about a minute on that. You don't have to cut your sentence off at that, but we'd really like you to keep it in that so we can kind of cover a wide range. If you want to respond to something somebody else has said, please just incorporate that into your minute time. Okay. Remember, this is really informational, and I know just by glancing through some of the questions, you guys are pretty pointed. So I've never, probably never had a time when school boards have been as in the news as they are now, and so I think this is it's an appropriate forum for this. So at the end, we'll give each of you a chance to just finish off something else that you'd want to say, just by way of introduction and again our getting to know you, and then of course afterward, unless somebody's really running out, I think they're more than willing to talk with you after individually. So, all right, so we're going to start on the end. Just to introduce everybody, again, we've got Mr. Ewert, who is filling a one-year term out and is now running again, and he's up against Mr. Blaine Mundell, and so those two are kind of going for the one-year position. Everybody else is filling two positions for a three-year term, and that's Scott Hawes, Anna Lemon, Kyle Pochek, and Stacy Graves and Janelle Lee, who's our incumbent. So without any further stoppage, I'll go ahead and start the questions. Mr. Ewert, you're going to start. You'll be the first one to be able to do that. So we'll just pass the mics down. We'll share them nicely with each other. And I think then you have a set of timers, right? That is going to go with that.
Right there.
Okay, so they're going to do the timing and we'll go from there. Okay. So, Mr. Ewert, okay, go ahead. You're first.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you. Thank you for the organizers, Jerry, for setting this up and an opportunity just to come and talk to you all. Again, my name is Paul Ewert. I have been here in Hannibal for 35 years, a little over 35 years. My kids all went through the high school, through the Hannibal School program. My wife was a teacher here. We were very beneficial very proud to be able to call that our home school. And from my experience as a healthcare administrator, I understand rules and regulations. I understand the federal guidelines. I understand how the the state guidelines work. I understand as a leader of a not-for-profit organization, I understand how boards work. I understand that, and as a longtime administrator, the responsibility of the board to represent not only the school, but the community as we go to the state legislators. We're very disappointed that Senator O'Loughlin was not able to be here, the chance to go and talk to them. So thank you again.
Yeah, that 1 minute rule is going to be tough for me.
Don't forget that.
Yeah, I won't look at it. The first thing I want to do is just say thank you to this group up here. The amazing group of people that can help to run our school. The faces in the crowd, I know many of you. My beautiful wife is back there in the back. Well, raise your hand. She said, you know what? She said, I'm just going to sit back here and don't introduce me. I said, I can't do that. You know that. 28 years in education as an administrator. Served 1 term on the board of education. During that time, there were a lot of things that were going on in our lives, my life, building a new home, a lot of different things. Because Michelle said, and true, said, what are you going to tell people why you didn't go back and run again? Well, it was frustrating, number one, I'm not going to lie. When Dr. Burton says anybody in their right mind shouldn't do this, they're probably right. There were things that I'm seeing that I think need change and addressed in some way. So my minute is up. I will pass the mic.
My name is Scott Hawes, and 13 years ago I moved my family here to Hannibal, and we've really enjoyed being part of this community. 10 years ago I became the pastor of Southside Baptist Church. When I moved to Hannibal, I came here to be a wrestling coach, and then after 22 years of coaching wrestling, my body was kind of wearing out, and it was time for me to move on from the coaching world. But in the last 13 years, I've had the privilege of mentoring in 3 of our area elementary schools, and my sons have graduated from Hannibal High School, and I am looking forward to being a candidate for the school board. As a school board member, I want to work at uplifting parenthood in the school district. I want to advocate for strong academics and student proficiencies, and then as well, I want to be part of a board and support the board's role in setting direction and policy for the school district. And I want to make sure that that direction is reflecting this community's needs and its values. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Anna Lemon, mom of 5. I've lived in Hannibal for the last 18 years. I've successfully put 4 of our 5 children through Hannibal High School. They graduated, and our 5th child is now a freshman at Hannibal High School. Many of you know me through my work and volunteering here in the community. But my work with those organizations doesn't define why I'm running for school board. Let me ask you a question. Who is the primary stakeholder in your child's upbringing? If you are a parent, if you are a grandparent or a guardian, you are the primary stakeholder in your child's upbringing, and that includes education. You have a voice, a very important voice, and I want to be that voice that helps bring together a better, stronger relationship between parents, our school board, and our district. I want to make sure that our parents are heard and that we can have cohesion in our district for the most important components, and that is our teachers and our students, our children.
My name is Kyle Pochek. My wife is here also, but I won't point her out because she wouldn't like that. We have 4 children. Our oldest graduated already. We have 1 in high school, 1 in grade school, and then we have a 4-year-old that will be coming up through the ranks. So by being a parent, I have a vested interest in what goes on in the school. But I also feel like I have something to offer. I have a lot of experience with boards. I'm a consulting engineer and a small business owner, and one of the facilities of my job is to attend board meetings, and I attend a lot of board meetings. I probably attend somewhere between 50 and 100 board meetings a year, and in the past I've attended even more board meetings than that. And so I have a lot of experience seeing what a good board is and what ineffective boards are. I have something to offer in that respect because I've seen a lot of different takes on how board meetings are run, and I just got the signal that's 1 minute, so I'll wrap that up. But I have something to offer in that respect, an outside perspective that understands how boards work and the work it takes to make good decisions that are well researched and well documented.
Hi, I'm Stacy Graves. I see a lot of familiar faces here, and many of you, I have had your kids in school because I've been here so long. I'm a 34-year resident of Hannibal. I had 31 years teaching, had the privilege of teaching our children at the high school. And I'm a 39-year-old veteran teacher. Can you believe that? I want to be on this school board because I want to continue to serve this district. This district is near and dear to my heart. And I think we've been very successful in the past, but I want to do anything I can to serve this district, the patrons, the kids. I think we've got a good foundation. I think we've got an excellent foundation. But I think I don't have an agenda, folks. I come into this wide-eyed without an agenda. I'm here to help this district out as much as humanly possible. That's it.
Hi, I'm Janelle Lee, and I'm running for my 3rd term on the school board. I've lived in Hannibal most of my life. I went to the high school, or the Hannibal schools. My kids, one of my children graduated. I still have a daughter in the schools. I would like to continue to serve on the board just so I can be a positive impact on our community. I think it's important to give back, and this is just one way that I can give back, that I'm invested in our community, and I want it to be the best that it can, and especially for our students and our teachers.
Thank you very much. Well, a couple of these questions have been alluded to in some of your opening remarks, so we'll get through as many as we can, and some of these don't deserve it or don't need a full minute answer, so we'll see how that goes. Blaine, you're first up on this one. Contrast the role of a school board member and the role of the superintendent.
Do you mean, just for clarification, what happens in the chain of command and things of that nature?
Yes, and
Yeah.
or I may allude to just what their relationship should be in your mind.
Well, the relationship should be one of understanding, should be one of communication, should be one of trust, should be one where on a board, everybody's not going to agree. It's not going to happen. It's just not. We went through it. But you should be respected. You should be able to give your opinion. You should be able to talk about all kinds of different things. And then when, whatever the vote may be, 5-2, 6-1, when you walk out of that room, everybody is cohesive at that time. If you don't, it becomes extremely frustrating for everyone, and it becomes an issue with the parents, because the parents don't trust, and you got to trust to make sure that everybody is communicating. I got my minute, I'm sorry. Want this way?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's just come down, straight down the road.
I agree with what Blaine has said from the outside looking in. I see that the board is there to help provide a feel for what's happening in the community, communication back to the administration, and I believe that the board is to give direction to the school district, and that we see that in Missouri School Board Association literature, and that's really what I will try to do as a school board member, is be that conduit of information, along with being collegial in the setting, and that's it.
I see the superintendent's role is to provide all information that's coming from the staff and all of the schools to our board. And then the board is then to make a decision with keeping in mind our parents, our community, all of our voters, our staff, and making a sound decision that's going to be best for all of them. It's very important to have a very trusting relationship with our superintendent and with our board and really all of our administration, as well as our parents. We got to have a strong, trusting, open communication that flows through that entire circle so that we can have a district that is going to continue to provide the best education for our children.
So a board is the link between the voters who have a vested interest in what occurs at the school and the education that the teachers, or that the students receive from the teachers. And the administration is the key component between those two. So the board should work and understand what the voters, what the parents care about, what their concerns are. The board should also work in harmony with the administration, because the administration is the link between the teachers and the students. So it has to be a mutual relationship that goes both directions. And it's important too, this is something that I've seen a lot of, the boards, elected boards, should never try to micromanage a situation. You have to work with administration. You have to trust the administration. The administration has to trust that the board is going to do the best job they can to make the best decisions. But we also have to focus that everything that we're doing is to educate our children, to prepare our children for the world that they're going to enter, to educate them in a proper manner. And so the board is the link that kind of completes the circle. And the administration and the board need to work hand in hand, but that board has to be responsible for the voters as well.
I agree with everything they have said so far. It's a team effort. You have your superintendent and your school board, they're a team. And the parents and the school board's a conduit to everything. We should be open to anything, any suggestions you have, any concerns you have. That's what we're there for. And it's up to us to share that with our superintendent. Superintendent has a tough job. They have all the information. They don't have part of the information, they have all the information that they have to address. And they have to share that with us, and then we, as a team, we make a decision. And it's not easy, but I think you work in the best interest of the community, those kids, and the district as a whole. It's a whole. It's one big team, and I think never is that more clear than the relationship you have with the superintendent and the school board. Thank you.
Could you repeat the exact wording? Sorry.
How would you contrast the role of a school board member with that of the role of the superintendent?
Okay, thank you. So to me, the role of superintendent, she's in charge of, currently it's she's in charge of the district, she's running it, she's the day-to-day operations. A board, they work closely with the superintendent, but the board is there to look at the policy, enforce the policy. The board's not there to make every single decision. We are there to listen if there's concerns, to take them before the superintendent. But to me, the board and the superintendent work closely together, and that's how I feel about it.
So the board is the elected body. The school board is the one body that's elected by the people to represent them to the school. The board has one employee. That one employee is the superintendent. The board and the superintendent together work together to set agenda. The board and the superintendent work together to set policy. The superintendent hires, controls, works with the different employees of the district. And the board works with that person to make sure that the policies are established correctly. The board chair and the superintendent together set the agenda for the board meetings and develop, what we need to be looking at, what needs to be approached. The board policies, the board sets the policies based upon the information provided by the school. The school brings that information to us, often through the different resources they have. The superintendent brings them through the state associations and things like that. And the board then balances that with their knowledge of the community and their representation of the community.
Thank you. The next question is both directed at potential board members and current board members. So in the opinion of the questioner, transparency is crucial and seems to be lacking during some school board meetings. What would you do to ensure transparency and have open discussions during the public meetings? If you currently are on the board, why are some topics off limits during meetings? Scott, you're first on that.
Excuse me. I think transparency is a wonderful thing. I think that if I'm a board member, I'm elected as a board member, I don't have any problem discussing anything. The only thing that I would have to learn is, if there's a law or some prohibition for us not to talk about something, that's one thing. But as a board member, I do not intend to sign away any of my freedom to speak plainly and clearly and to bring information to the attention of the board. And the setting of that, I'd have to learn more of what is appropriate, and I would follow those guidelines, but at the same time, I'd be a strong voice to bring information to the board. And as a board member, I look at the Missouri State Constitution, and I see that the board is the key holders of the school district. And so I believe that the board needs to be very active and involved with knowing what's going on in the community, what's important in the community, and making sure that that is being voiced in the proper setting, in the proper context, and that we follow through with those discussions and make sure that there's communication taken back to the community, and so that if there's a big decision that needs to be made, that we're not trying to hide anything, we're not trying to do anything behind anybody's back, but they understand that our heart is for this community and for the families that we serve.
So I've spoken with the board many times about transparency. I haven't missed a single board meeting in the past 10 months, and prior to that, I've been to several other meetings. And transparency has definitely been an issue with me regarding the board and with the superintendent. I don't like showing up to a meeting and it's the first time hearing something and like, where was the discussion about this prior to this? Why is it just now the information is coming out when we could have had this discussion last month? I think we're kind of in that current situation with some of the early separation that's going on, and kind of went through that back in 2019 with graduation. So transparency is definitely important, and I think that, and I know as a board member, I will be asking questions and seeking answers prior to going into the meeting. We do have an agenda, and we have a packet that comes out prior to going in, and that will be thoroughly read over, and I will go out and seek who this is going to affect and have a transparent conversation with the people it's going to affect, with board members, with the administration, with the superintendent. I'm not afraid to ask a question and have have that topic discussed.
I've been to about 5 school board meetings, so I don't have a lot of experience watching the school board, but in the 5 meetings that I've been to, I've been really surprised by the lack of discussion on a lot of different topics. Like I said, I have a lot of experience going to a lot of different board meetings and seeing a lot of different boards in action. And this is one of the quietest boards I've ever watched. And that's been kind of surprising because some of the topics have been fairly important in how they impact teachers, students, and so forth. And that's been surprising. So, as a board member, I would certainly be more interested in having open discussions about things. I can't say whether things are transparent or not because they're just not being discussed. So I don't know if there's not much to discuss, if there's not many questions, but it's a very quiet board, and that's not something I'm accustomed to, and it's certainly something I would like to see more open discussions about decisions that are made, especially significant decisions.
We're here. I think our school board anyway, has tried to be as transparent as possible. I know they get a pack of information before every board meeting, and I've only attended the last three in a row, and I have attended board meetings as a teacher in the past, and sometimes there's not as much discussion. I'm surprised by the lack of discussion, but I think the chance to discuss is always offered up. And it is a kind of a quiet board, but this board has done a lot of good things for this district. And I think transparency is vitally important. I think that we need to discuss. I would hope that community members and parents would feel free to talk to each board member about any concerns they have. I think that's important, that we are approachable, that people want to know what's going on and where we stand on things.
From serving on the board, I think we're pretty transparent. There might be things that we could do better. And as one of 7 board members, we're always open to talking to people. So if you think there's something that's not transparent, come and talk to us. I like what Ms. Graves said about, we do get the board packet before the meeting. We get it on a Friday. So we have 5 days to review it, to think about it, if we have questions. Everything doesn't have to be discussed, hashed out. So I think we are pretty transparent, and I think just in the society we live in, everybody probably has a different view of transparency. Some see us that we aren't transparent, but I think as a board we've done a good job. But maybe it is an area we need to improve on if the community feels that way.
So, one of the hurdles that I see in serving on a public board is that there are a lot of different rules and regulations and requirements that we can and cannot do. There's regulations that guide the nature of the agenda, things like that, and that's a hurdle for conversation. Like Ms. Lee said, we do get the information ahead of time and are provided with that so that we can look at it and talk. We can talk to our friends or spouses or whatever to know about it. I know a number of the board members, and I've served a little bit less than a year, so I don't know all that's going on, but the individuals that I know, are the kind that do their research and understand and look at what's going on and understand. I'm not sure what topics are off limits. I didn't get that memo. Nobody told me, you can't talk about that. Everything that I've ever heard, people have come and had the opportunity to talk in public forum at it or to ask questions.
Well, I'm not a very quiet person to begin with, so when I was on the board, there was quite a bit of discussion. This is really a simple question for me. In open session, you should be able to discuss anything with your board member. You should be able to call them, talk to them, contact them, and honestly, and I have to be honest, some of that was discouraged when I was on the board. Even when we were appointing Mr. Kurz, we were asked to really keep the questions to a very minimal type of discussion. Now, in closed session, you don't say a word. There are things that my wife doesn't even know that happened in closed session because it's illegal. You can't go out and talk about closed session stuff. But anything that is an open session, I don't care what the topic is. If it's masks, if it's vaccines, whatever it may be, you should be able to contact your board member, and that board member should respond to you at some point.
So this may be a short answer, but it may be a longer answer. Who is the primary stakeholder in a child's upbringing?
Well, that's funny that you asked that because I did put that in my introduction there. And it's a very important question that I feel every single parent, grandparent, or guardian thinks about as they listen to all of us up here speak about. And when you go to the voting polls, you should think about it. The primary stakeholder in your child's upbringing is you. You as a parent, you as a grandparent, you as a guardian, I am the primary stakeholder of my child's upbringing, and that includes education. And I think that as a board, as a parent, I'm going to definitely make sure that each and every parent knows and understands and has the communication to come to us as a board to speak and be able to encourage their child's education.
Yeah, I don't even like the term primary stakeholder. If you have kids, you're the parent or legal guardian or whatever, they're living in your home and it's your responsibility to take care of them. The education, the values, all those things are certainly in the parent's domain, first and foremost. The school should be there to help educate the students in manners that the parents might not be able to. To provide additional support, additional education, more formal education. But my goodness, the parents are the primary educators, the primary people to teach the values and everything else. There's just no way of saying ands or buts about that.
I agree. You, the parents, are the primary stakeholder. And I don't like that word either. But you're everything to your kids, and if you're not, you should be. And as a parent, you have a little bit of weight on your shoulders too, not only to bring up this child to be a great person, but teach them to respect education and know the importance of education and how education can set them free. I'm a firm believer in that, folks, and it always comes back to the parents. What do you believe in? What do you consider important in their lives? And education should be right up there with that.
I agree. I think the parent is the primary stakeholder, and I know myself as a parent, when I send my daughter to the middle school every day, I know our schools are doing what is in her best interest. She's safe, she's taken care of, she's learning. All of her needs are being met there when I'm not there as her primary stakeholder.
The parent and the legal guardian.
Yeah, I don't like the word primary because let's think about the whole thing. I have two boys, and I taught them the value of life, the value of money, the value of competitiveness, the value of all of the different things that they are currently into, which they are great kids, and I'm extremely proud of them. So, and I hope every parent is proud of their child. You are the primary stakeholder. But let's talk about education, education-wise, because that's what we are. We're a board. Let's think about who is the most important person in their life. You. Who's second in their education? Their teacher. Who is third? Maybe a secretary, maybe a custodian, maybe, you never know. Who is fourth? Probably the assistant principal. Who's fifth? Probably the principal. Who's sixth? Maybe central office. And who's seventh? We set the policies. We set the policies. We help to direct the policies. You should help to direct the policies. Here we talk about our, I'll get to it another time I hear my buzzer, but we talk about how the superintendent and how we're all in it together. We are in it together. But who votes on the teacher contracts? Who looks at the different things all throughout the district? Who controls the land on the district? You're private. We are private, a public-private land that we control. Many people don't know that. Sorry for the long answer.
I want to uplift parenthood, and legal guardians obviously fall in that category too, but as a person that went into our elementary schools and mentored different children, one thing that was very obvious in many of those situations was that parents weren't really involved in their child's education, even at home. So we want to promote that in the community. I know I've talked to several teachers and people in our school district. They're crying out to get parents to be involved in their children's education, but I believe that parents are the stakeholders, the key stakeholders, and I want to elevate that in our board meetings.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to try to combine two questions here and try to get a little discernment between maybe some of your thoughts. I'm going to ask this in this way. Do you feel any dissatisfaction with the overall achievement of the level of our students? And as a board member, what do you feel that you could do about it?
Am I first?
Kyle, you first.
So the first part was, do I feel any dissatisfaction?
Yes. Or you can, it's open-ended, you can laud the achievements of our students, or you can take whichever direction you'd like to go.
Okay, so our kids transferred into the school. My oldest son transferred in as a freshman. My second son transferred in as a sixth grader, and my daughter was in kindergarten, I think. So we have some comparisons and so forth, and I have to say that I feel like the Hannibal School District does really well in some areas, for sure. My wife and I are overall very pleased with a lot of the opportunities and so forth the high school offers. The VOTEC program is really remarkable. The different opportunities that students have to engage in life skills is really a good thing, and it far exceeds what a lot of the other schools around here have. And so I think that's a very good thing. The high school overall has a lot of really great classes and opportunities. There's a lot of programs for students that I think are really good. Now this is a long question, so I gotta go longer. So the grade school also, our daughter goes to Oakwood. We're very, very pleased with Oakwood. We think they do a great job. I will say that nothing's perfect, so I'm not going to sugarcoat things, but there are some issues in all those things, but nothing's ever perfect. But we're overall very pleased with that. The middle school is another story. We were really shocked with the culture, the environment of the middle school, and we think there could be a lot of improvement there. One specific example I will give is our son was not doing a very good job in English. He was writing papers that were very poor in grammar, very poor spelling, And at a parent-teacher conference, we discussed that with the teacher, and we were basically told that they focus more on things like the ideas, the concepts expressed, and less on those things. And we were kind of concerned because it's encouraging bad habits, and those bad habits persisted into high school, and now he's kind of facing the penalties for that. So as far as what would I do as a board member to try to achieve better improvement, I really think that the teachers are the core, and we need to have an understanding of what the teachers think works and what the teachers think doesn't work, and try to work with the teachers and find out what they need and help give them what they need to be more successful. Okay, that's a long answer real quick.
He didn't take my time, did he? Just checking. I believe in teaching up, not teaching down. And every district has a few warts. But by and large, I am proud of the job that our district does with our kids. And we are living in awful times right now, to lack anything flowery. It's difficult times with COVID and whatnot. And the hoops that everyone is jumping through, I think it's just amazing the job that everyone is doing. Is there room for improvement in areas? Sure there is. And I hope we address those. But the job that our teachers, our staff, our administration has done during this COVID times is just unbelievable. And if we can ever return back to normal, I think we will address any weaknesses we have. No, I did not.
I feel student achievement is good. There's always things that we could do better, and we always want our students to do better. But one thing thinking about that is it's not always on the teachers, like what are the teachers doing wrong? Students have to take responsibility for it too. But something a board could do is just make sure we're supporting our teachers, make sure they have the resources they need, and supporting our students, because the COVID that we've dealt with hasn't just been hard on our teachers, it's been extremely hard on our students, having to do virtual learning, not being able to see their friends as often, and that sort of stuff. But student achievement is always so important, and I think Hannibal does a good job with it.
One of the quotes that I learned early on, and I kept it in my office, was aim so high that you're never bored. That's always been a thing that I've strived for. I'm an easily bored person. I'm a little bit ADHD, and so I have to struggle at that. But at the same time, I think it's important that we always push ourselves so that we keep getting better and better and better. So do I think that the Hannibal School District could do better? I definitely do. They could have, that last football game, man. But the reality is, not everybody is the kind of person that is going to achieve as much, or is bound to try to achieve as much as the next person. And in listening to the different superintendents report, to the different principals report to the board, they bring out not only what they feel they're doing good, they also address where they think they need to be looking at, what they're working on. They look at that, and so I'm very proud of it. And I think that's the role of the board, is to keep encouraging them, to keep pushing them to go as high as they can.
I heard one word that I just absolutely hate from a lot of people, and it's good. Never let good be the enemy of great. Never let that happen. Do we need to improve? Yes. Absolutely. Can we improve? Yes, absolutely. We have excellent leadership in many different areas. We must get the students what they need what they need for education, and we must have an environment within our school district, from the custodians to the superintendent to every board member. Our environment needs to improve in communication. We need to be able to talk to people. We need to have an environment that kids love to come to school. And that's what, that's what it's all about. What can we do as a board member? We listen to Susan. We take advice from Susan. We listen to the teachers and to what they need. Are all teachers great? No, there's a lot of good ones, a lot of great ones. But we have to make sure that we are providing the best teaching quality that we possibly can provide.
I've met many excellent teachers in our school district. I've met several coaches that go the distance in being there for their coaches or for their students, for their athletes. And I don't have all the answers as I sit in front of you, but I do have a listening ear. And I want to be someone who's going to, as I saw those teachers work with students in elementary schools, I want to go in there and find out how I can help. I want to listen to the teachers. I want to, take that back to our discussion at the table for the board meetings and see how we can make a difference. We have an elementary school that received a great distinction and honors in the nation in Oakwood Elementary, and I'm really proud to see that in our community, and I'd like to see that happen in our other schools as well. I want to find out what's going on in Oakwood that we can take over to Eugene Field, and I know that there's different types of students at every school, but maybe we can improve each one of those schools and take it all the way up to the high school as a board. That's what we need to do.
So I think that we base our opinion on whether or not our students are getting the education by standardized tests, and nationally they don't look good. Of course, I'm not here on a national level, I'm here at a very specific level. And I can recall back in the August board meeting, Mr. Sampson from the high school stood up and gave his report. He spoke about the literacy problem of high schoolers. It doesn't start at high school. It starts in our elementary school. So if they're making it to high school, where's the problem? And we need to find that where it is, and we need to build a program, get ideas from teachers, from students, from parents, and have a better relationship as a team so that we can look at the literacy problem of high schoolers and knock that out.
Thank you very much. Right on it.
Mrs. Graves, I'll give you a hot potato here. It's a fairly neutral definition. One definition of critical race theory says that racism is ingrained in the fabric of American society and cultural institutions and their policies and procedures. Is it your belief that racism is ingrained in the fabric of our schools? And how does this affect your approach to being a board member?
For one thing, critical race theory is just that. It's a theory. About 40 years ago, three people, Crenshaw, Bell, and Delgado, they were financial analysts, and they were analyzing. It had nothing to do with where critical race theory has leapt to the last couple of years, but they found that real estate in depressed areas was being targeted by banks not to give loans to people who were from those areas trying to get into a different area. And those areas tended to be people of color, very depressed areas. And that's how the whole critical race theory started, as a systemic issue with housing and how we do business with people of color. And so as far as I'm concerned, if our teachers teach our kids, as a teacher, you try to take into consideration when you have a student of color in your class, but you want to take the same approach with everyone. And I would hope as a board member, our teachers do that, as well as the support staff and administration and everybody else. But critical race theory has just taken a connotation this doesn't exist. Yes, there is racism, but it's in our fabric. it's in our fabric of our being. And so all we can do is try to make ourselves better and make the situation better.
I understand why critical race theory, is a concern. I know in our district, we teach the state standards. Assistant Superintendent Sean Brown, he meets with our admin to see what they're teaching. They reevaluate it. And I think if there's concerns about it, one way to go about it is just open communication with the board members. Probably the first place to start is the teacher, and then you kind of work up the chain of command if you do have concerns about it.
Like Ms. Graves said, critical race theory is a social science theory. It's a theory. Growing up, I, like most of you, grew up learning that God created the heavens and the earth, that God created Adam and Eve. And then we went to school. And when we were in school, we learned about evolution. And somehow or other, we had to put together evolution and God and where's all this coming from? And for me, it was pretty easy. I believe in dinosaurs. They're there, But that Big Bang was that God said, and it was. So I can deal with two different theories out there. I can deal with knowing that there are parts of society that are racist. There are. That's not everybody. The very fortunate thing that we do here in Hannibal, one of the things that I've loved about them, is our 7 Cubby habits. I don't know if any of you have heard of them or learned about them. Your kids know them all. Seek first to hear. Seek first to understand before you're understood. Seek win-win. When we work on those kinds of things, and that's what we're teaching our kids, to work together, to win-win, to understand each other, then we can come together and go over all of these different things. We don't have to be constrained by it.
Thank you. Critical race theory, I as an educator, especially in the last couple of years, I've learned of issues in different states where critical race theory is taught, and it's very divisive. It's very divisive. It's divisive like you can't believe. Should we, as a school district, teach it? No, absolutely not. Should we teach Black history? Absolutely. Absolutely we should. I had a great conversation with Faye Dan. I don't know if you guys know Faye. And she invited me to the Black History Alliance down on Main Street. And Michelle and I went the other day. It was incredible. It was incredible. It was great to see the different paintings, all of those different things. But there is a difference, and people mess that up sometimes with critical race theory and Black history. But there is critical race theory that could creep in. One of the things that I go through, and it hasn't. I was a 28-year educator. I never saw a division like we have today in education with parents and administrators, and that's something we have to take care of. We have to do this together. I don't care what the color of your skin is. I hired Richard Pugh, 6'4", Black guy. He was the best person. I learned so much from him that it was incredible. I would love to have every person in this room sit down with him and talk, because he's brilliant with getting people together. Sorry, I would have handed it over.
I also believe that critical race theory can be very divisive. I agree that the idea is a theory, but out of theories come philosophies. And theories that come from critical race theory or philosophies that come from critical race theory can be redefined, and they can subtly find their ways into our education system. And as a board member, I think we need to be very careful of that. I'm against all forms of racism. I'm against all forms of racism. And when you start looking at critical race theory and you take, maybe not how it originally started and the gentleman and people who came up with the idea, but what it is trying to do is divide our country. And I will not stand for that. I've coached athletes from every race. And I love those students. and I will stand for them. I'll stand beside them. We need to teach the Black history. That's a great thing. We need to continue that. But we need to beware of a philosophy that can creep into our school district that will drive wedges in our community. That's not what we want.
So with critical race theory, I do not agree with critical race theory at all. I do not agree with racism. I do not agree with anybody saying that one person is superior than the other. I can only think of one word that I feel that we need to stress with our kids, regardless of your race, your color, and it's kindness. We all can be a little kinder, and we can all promote kindness within each other. And yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, so critical race theory is divisive. I will agree with that for sure. And anything divisive like that, we don't need to teach, and we don't need to teach it under any name. You know, racism is never ingrained, it's taught, and it's always taught out of ignorance. And the simple solution is we just need to look at everybody as individuals. And there's really nothing more complicated than that. Everybody is an individual person, and we need to treat them as such.
Ms. Lee, we'll give you a chance at this. It's always hard to be the first one when you get a hot potato, but we'll go with this. Several months ago, Attorney General Merrick Garland directed a memo to the FBI instructing that parents in attendance at school board meetings be considered a domestic terrorist threat. What is your understanding of that memo, and how do you think it got that way?
I think school board meetings over the last couple of years have gotten very heated, and at times some people do not act appropriately, but that's just because they're very emotional about the topic they're talking about. I do not agree that it's domestic terrorism. People are very, I can't think of the word, but when people have a cause they really feel strongly for, they're going to get emotional, they might get loud, you know, they might try to get their point across in several different ways, and I think that's what's kind of been happening in school board meetings. But I think something to remember about that is it's always important to be respectful of other people's opinions, and there's all kinds of views out there, and just because one person doesn't agree doesn't mean they're a bad person, doesn't mean they're doing something wrong. But I think it's just a society we live in that people get so worked up about stuff and they can't calm down.
Some of the information for that memo came from the National School Board Association. And upon hearing that and receiving that, the Missouri State School Board Association sent a letter denying that they believe in that, denying that they agree with that, and withdrew their association with the National Association. So the state of Missouri disagrees with that.
Well, I've been alive for 55 years, I taught 28, and right now I have never met a domestic terrorist in Hannibal. So, if somebody is a domestic terrorist, make sure you let me know, because I think that is ridiculous, and how we got to that, I don't know. If I knew how we got there, I'd run for president, because I'm not sure people understand, anybody understands how we got there. I attended a meeting last Saturday about the Missouri Constitution and learned so much. And one of the questions that I asked the presenter was, how did we get to where we are right now? Because I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't know. Maybe I lived a life that was just rainbows and unicorns. But I don't understand not having parents in your schools or not having conversations with your parents. I don't understand anybody who would call a parent a domestic terrorist. Makes no sense to me.
From the outside looking in, it would appear that the FBI was trying to silence parents. and to keep them out of the public discussion at the school board meeting. And I do not believe that's constitutional. And as a school board member, you as parents and guardians, you need to be represented, you need to have a voice. And we need to keep things civil. We need to keep them civil, but we need to let people speak and be heard. And it's a terrible thing that happened when the FBI labeled some of those parents as domestic terrorists.
I'll agree with Scott on the FBI trying to silence the parents. And I believe it was just that, just trying to silence the parents. And I don't agree with that. I know at the board meetings I do a lot of speaking and I get up and I talk. And I've seen in the past meetings that got heated and very emotional parents. And I will say it takes a lot for parents to get up and speak in front of the board. And I think that they need to be recognized for that and praised for that, regardless of their passion and their emotion. And a lot of that emotion could be discussed prior to the meetings so that it doesn't have to be heated. And we have that transparency, again, where we get all of the information and it's not just sprung upon last minute. And we have the opportunity to have the discussions prior to the meetings.
So, as board members, anybody that's a board member has been elected and they answer to the parents. If a parent is there, like Anna mentioned, it's because they're passionate about what's going on with their children. And while we want to keep things civil, we want that parental engagement. The parents are only there because they love their kids. They care. They want the best for their kids. So we absolutely need to be listening to the parents. Again, things need to be kept civil. We need to keep things or find ways to help ensure that through transparency, through discussions and so forth. But yeah, my goodness, the parents are there and they're impassioned because they love their kids. And that's what we want. Right? We want the parents to love their kids. So.
I think it comes to us as board members to be approachable, and that if a parent is very disgruntled or passionate about something, they should be able to speak at the meeting, absolutely. It would be nice if they could speak to a board member or board members first to maybe diffuse some of that passion, but I'm with these guys. It's imperative that you're able to share what you're passionate about. And when people are passionate about something, it's going to get heated. You know, you expect that. So that's where I stand.
Great answers. So I'm hoping for a little education here myself to help explain this question, but I do know the thoughts behind it, so we'll just ask it as pretty much as written. What are your thoughts on the standards-based grading system? I believe we're currently using a mixture. If you're elected or re-elected, would you advocate a return to all grade levels to a letter grading system?
Thanks. It's been interesting to listen to the middle school discussion about standards-based grading. I'm going to struggle through that, and please, I'm learning this as much as some of the rest of you are. The problem with an A, B, C, D, F is that they don't necessarily always tell you what you really know. They don't necessarily always tell you how much you've accomplished and how much you haven't accomplished. My wife was a first grade teacher and taught reading. And so to help them understand where they belong or where they fit, rather than giving them a grade that you got an A in your reading or a B in your reading, they started moving it towards looking at, they accomplished this. They've gone from books rated A, B, C to E, F, G. And so it more, for the elementary school and from what I understand the middle school, it more accurately defines what you actually have learned as opposed to how you fit within that ABC. Now, how that fits within, going to college and your 4.0, I'm not getting there.
Here's the deal with standards-based grading and ABC. Standards-based grading can be excellent. ABC can be excellent. You know what you have to do? You have to explain it to the parents. If you just talk to the parents and say, hey, this is what we are grading your child on, their knowledge of what they are doing, their capacity to take that knowledge and put it into real life situations. Who cares if you have an A, a B, or C, or you have a standards-based grading system? Now, parents love the A, B, C, D, F grading system. Why? Because we all grew up with it. We all had A, B, C, D, or F, and that's how we know it. But the key to any system is communication. And I always say, and I learned this Saturday, and it was such a great quote. The guy said, don't attack the individuals. Don't attack the teachers. Attack the system. If you're on a plane, and the plane is not running correctly, you don't just change the pilot, you repair the plane. When you repair the plane, then you may have to change the pilot, who knows? But communication with your parents is the key. I know that because we went through the standards grade system when I was at the middle school.
I know, it's hard to say. I coached college wrestling for 16 years. I coached wrestling for 22 years. And I was always in that process of helping students stay eligible. And wrestlers can sometimes be a great challenge just because of their personalities and maybe sometimes their backgrounds. But I had some excellent wrestlers, great students, excelled. They would have succeeded no matter what. But I also know I had students that had to really work at it. And I think that our education system needs to reflect teachers helping students to learn the discipline to learn. And however you measure that, I'm not really married to anything, but I know what has worked in the past. And until we get something that really can replace that and reflect what the student is learning, we need to be careful of making quick changes in that regard. But we have to ask ourselves, why was it brought to the attention of the board by Mr. Sampson that we have high schoolers who are illiterate? That should not be. And so whatever we do, we need to make sure that students are learning, that they see their progress in studies. And I believe that every student should be prepared for the work life. If they decide to go to a technical school, that they're prepared for technical school, that they want to go to a university, that they've had the rigorous studies that have led them to be able to succeed, be able to have success in those arenas.
So currently the standard-based grading is in our middle school, and it is slowly making its way into the elementary school. It is not at the high school. So we have students that are going through elementary, going through middle school with standard-based grading, and then it switches to the regular traditional grading. I believe in consistency, especially for children that struggle with school and with their studies. Consistency is really important. And elementary school and middle school is all preparation into high school. And those 4 high school years are very important in our children's going out into the world to work, to serve our country, to go on to a higher education. We need to have consistency. So I think that looking at what we have now, and like Scott, I'm not necessarily married to anything, but I definitely want to look at it so that we can have a more consistent grading scale and what our kids are expecting. I will also say that when we did get the report at the, I forget which board meeting it was, but the administrator that was talking about standard-based grading said the students all love it, and the only problem are the parents. I don't like that.
So I'm not really familiar with the changes that were made in the middle school. I actually just learned about it today. I was talking to a mom who has a student in the middle school, and she explained the system from her perspective. I have not researched it, so I don't know if her perspective is accurate or not, but as a mom talking to me, she did not like it. So going back to the A through F system, I can say one reason that it's always been used is because there's some objective measures to it. So when students get out into adult life and have jobs and so forth, their success or their failures are objective. They're going to achieve something or they're not. They're going to do a good job, they're going to meet a deadline, or they're not. So having objective standards, that are based on performance are going to help them to understand that that's the way life works. Now, there's multiple ways. We don't have to stick with A through F in order to achieve objective standards, but there has to be some objective standards that the kids are able to measure their progress by. With regards to what they're doing in middle school, like I said, I don't have enough information about it other than the mom's perspective. But the question I would ask is, does it work? Is it working? Is it achieving a goal? Is it helping the students? Is it helpful for the teachers? And then does this method help push the students to learn more? Because that's ultimately the goal. And if it's not doing those things, then it doesn't seem like it would be very worthwhile.
I think standard-based grading is a result, a trickle-down effect from these standards from the state of Missouri, quite frankly. And I can see its merit, but if we're going to continue to use the A through F standard at the high school, which we have to do because the colleges are geared that way, I think there has to be some kind of hybridization of those two standards in the elementary and middle school. And I think we are able to we could do that. Will it be easy? Probably not. But it would keep the state happy. It would give the kids real life situational goals that are tangible, and yet it would still give the GPA the grade that they will be held to in high school.
I think with standards-based grading, it's something new and it's trending. And sometimes when something's new and you're not sure about it, you get uncertain, you don't like it. But at the board meeting, when the middle school presented on standards-based grading, as a middle school parent, I was a little unsure because I didn't know too much about it. But after the presentation, I really thought, this is really neat, and it really is a good system. I know elementary teachers use it, middle school uses it, there are high schools teachers that use it, because when my son was a sophomore, he had standards-based grading. So I think it's new. I think it's something that we have to get used to, but I don't think it's the worst thing ever. And I think it has our students, this is the objective, this is what you're supposed to learn, but it does help take them to the next level, because there are things that they could do above what's just basic to learn more and do better. But I think standards-based grading is just something new, and I don't see anything wrong with it.
So there were a lot of good answers, and I learned a lot in that discussion, but none of you really answered, per se, at the last part of that question. If elected, would you return all grade levels to the letter grading system? So I guess I'll follow on with that, and you'll have a chance to just respond, if you would, briefly to that. And this one just correlates with it. And is it your opinion that the school board members have an obligation to have oversight in curriculum decisions?
Well, I'm going to stand up because after 2 back surgeries, I'm starting to hurt a little bit. But oversight in curriculum, we definitely need to know what's in the curriculum. We definitely need to talk about and be educated of what's in the curriculum. Because we talked about all of those hot button issues, and we talked about all of those different things with CRT and all of those things, the different types of things that parents don't want into the curriculum. You know, the thing that I read even on MSBA is talking about oversight. The oversight of the board is the complete school district, along with parents making decisions on curriculum together. And that just struck me as, that's common sense. It's common sense to talk through all of those different things and have the parents included. You should be included. For 28 years I've tried to include parents. It's a shame that it had to take what we have going on now to get parents to come into our schools. Would I return to the ABC? I'd have to see what our achievement is, to be honest. You need to look at achievement at all levels that have standard-based grading before you just make the decision to return to something. But you should always go back and evaluate every program that you put in every year.
I gotta follow this guy every time. He's got some good answers. Here's the deal. I think anytime a decision is made, you need to have the information of how it's affecting the students, the teachers, and the outcome, as he said, if you look at the outcomes of how things are being measured, what the outcome is, that's what's really important. But if we're not seeing the outcome that we desired, then maybe we should go back to something that has stood throughout history to be a way to measure the outcome. And so I think that's really important. As far as making a decision on a specific curriculum, I think we need to have insight into the curriculum. I don't think we need to micromanage it. But if there are parts of our curriculum that do not reflect the values of our community, then we as a board, we are the voice to bring that concern and make sure that idea or that philosophy is put to rest that does not reflect where we are as a community.
I'm going to agree that we definitely as a board need to have insight on curriculum as well as the parental involvement with our curriculum. It's teamwork. The board, the administration, the teachers, the staff, the support staff, the students, the parents, it's all one big team. We've established that this evening. And so we do, every single component needs to have some kind of say when it comes to the curriculum. If I were to make a vote like right now as far as the standard-based grading, I would say yes, I would go back to ABC, the traditional grading. Does that mean that I would always do that? No, because I'm always open to change. I'm always open to listen and to evaluate all of the grading system and how it's affecting our children and their education, if they're getting it. And I go back to our high schoolers having the literacy problem of high schoolers. Well, they were in middle school not that long ago and they had standard-based grading, so.
Yeah, the school board definitely needs to have an understanding of what the curriculum is and some input. Like I said early on, the board should never micromanage. It's never a board's job to micromanage, but it is the board's job to be that link between the parents and the education. And so there should be, in order to effectively complete that link, we have to know what's going on, what's being taught. And we have to have some voice into that. As far as the standards base, you know, like I ended my last talk with, would I go back? Well, is it effective? Is it working? Is it achieving what it's supposed to achieve? Is it helping the teachers to educate the students, because that's the whole point of all this, is to educate the students. So is it helping? If it's helping, then leave it alone. If it's not helping, then go back.
I used to coach you. I used to coach years ago, and there's something I learned a long time ago, and it's true of teaching too, that you don't really know how effective something is until it's been established for about 3 years. That's when you see, is a coach going to be effective? As a teacher, something that you're trying to work on, a method with your kids, is it going to be effective? Usually the 3rd year. And so I honestly am not that familiar with the performance-based teaching because I was in the high school and I didn't have any kids. But I think if it is being effective, you can't know that until after it's run its course by 3 years. Then make the decision. As board, I think it would be important for us to see where it's at before we make that decision. Is it being effective? Is it helping our kids?
I'm going to answer about going back to the letter grades. No, I don't think we just need to go back to all letter grades. And I think my thinking for that is, I was a teacher, and I've been out of it now for 8 years, but I don't know what's going on in the schools. I'm not there every day. I'm not grading their papers. I'm not going through the latest standards. So I have to trust the school that I send my daughter to, that they're doing what's best for her as far as grading, if it's letter grades or if it's standards-based grading. And I think there even are some universities that are going to standards-based grading, and they're accepting it, transcripts and that. So letters-based grading, it's everything we know, but there are times when it's okay to change. And then the oversight and the curriculum, I think it's important for a board to know the curriculum and know what's going on, but as a board member, I don't need to pick out what science books they're going to use. I don't need to know what math books they're going to use. That's not my job, because again, I'm not in the school every day. I'm not the ones teaching the students. So yes, the board should know the curriculum, but I don't think they need to delve into every little detail of it.
The board is ultimately responsible for everything, all the decisions that happen down to that. So yes, the board is ultimately responsible for the curriculum. The board hires a superintendent, and we're very fortunate that our superintendent chooses to hire a curriculum assistant superintendent. And they bring that together and learn that information. They take that information. The different schools have curriculum groups that work in those to help develop those different curriculums. And so that oversight comes back up. Part of that oversight comes back to then, it's when the parents hear something and I have a concern, hey, my kid came home and told me this. Is this what we're being taught? As the school board hears about those, as we know about those, we have a chance then to find out and learn to know whether those are things that are being taught, or whether the kid heard wrong. Some of my kids came home with some pretty strange stories that when I looked into them weren't quite what they said they were. So, I mean, that's how we are. Standards-based curriculum is a good thing, in my opinion. It tells us whether you meet that standard or not. If you hit that standard, then you've got it. If you're 80% of it, it tells you that. If you've exceeded that standard, it tells you that. So, more than just letting you know ABC, it tells you where you are in meeting that standard. And I'm in favor of it.
All right, been a marathon session, okay? Very hard to cobble together the last question, or the second to last question here for you. But I guess we'll circle around to this, and that is, who should control curriculum, and how would you represent parents or even non-parents that you don't agree with if you're elected?
Well, the administration has put people in place that are representing us as a community, and they have the control of making that decision right now. And I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure what is being taught reflects what we believe as a community is really important. And the way I would represent people who I don't necessarily agree with is by looking at the facts and the information and seeing what our Constitution says, what our state Constitution says, our national Constitution, state Constitution, and make sure that people are being represented within the law. And so if they're being represented within the law, then you know, I'm going to try to do that to the best of my ability. I can disagree with people and still love them. I can disagree with people and still be kind to them. And I will show them that respect. And but we need to make sure that we're following the law and how we execute education, and when it comes to the curriculum, being a voice. But I feel that I've had a great relationship with many people that I haven't agreed with, and I think they would even count me as a friend. And so I think that's important to take into a position like a school board member representing the entire community.
The administrator that we have who's helped select the curriculum, I feel is a very important role. And that's oversaw by our superintendent as well as the board. And so again, it's that teamwork where we get all of the information and we take that information and make that decision as a board. And as Scott said, that it represents our voters, our community. And with people that don't agree with me, I try to be as approachable as possible. I'm always willing to listen. I'm always willing to take what anybody has to say and listen. It may change how I think. It may not change how I think. I may, I don't know, go partial, meet them halfway in the middle. But I'm always willing to listen. And I'm always welcoming anybody that has a differing opinion to come and speak to me. I would never not speak or return an email or have a sit down with any person, especially if somebody that disagrees with them. I feel like that's probably more important to talk with them, to get their ideas so that we can come to an even playing ground.
Could you repeat the first part of the question?
First part of the question is, how would you represent parents that you don't agree with? And I guess the first part is, who should be in control of curriculum?
Okay, so that question is kind of something that we've touched on. Who should be in control of curriculum? Well, it should be a team effort. The board certainly needs to have input from parents through the board to the administrator. But the administrator is the one hired to oversee those things, and we have to rely on the professionals. So there's a team effort, and the board is the link. So there shouldn't be one person in control of curriculum. It should be a team effort. With regards to parents that disagree, you know, we need to listen to each other. It's gotten to the point where in our culture at large that disagreements aren't acceptable. I once heard kind of a joke, but it kind of is a reality. It says if two people agree on everything, one of them is not necessary. So, you know, it's natural and normal for people to disagree, and it's okay. And we need to listen to each other. As individuals, none of us have the answers, all the answers for everything. And we need to be open-minded and listen, but we also need to be principled as well. We need to keep our principles that we have and not flex on principles, but we need to listen and we need to be open to different ideas and different perspectives.
We have there are people in place at Hannibal that deal with curriculum on a day-to-day basis, not only from the bottom, but at the top, what the state requires. And I've always been very tickled as a teacher at Hannibal that our building administrators want impact, always were asking for input about what we were teaching, what would we change. Did it always travel to the top? No, but they were always looking for more information from us because we're the ones that dealt day to day with the students, the needs of the students, are we meeting state requirements, etc. And so I think it's wonderful that we have such a hierarchy of people in place to deal with curriculum. That's their job, that's what they do. As far as dealing with a parent that has an opposing opinion to me, how do we learn if we don't hear opposing opinions? You need that, you know? I feel pretty strongly about some things, but I also feel very strongly about hearing other attitudes, and I learn something. And sometimes it changes my idea of what should or should not happen. But I'm just a conduit. If I were on the school board, I'd just be a conduit to help share your information with the board.
I think the admin that we've hired, and we have curriculum leaders in our schools, I think they control curriculum. Again, the board can know what's being taught, but a lot of things the state tells us, these are the standards that have to be taught. It's not up to me to say, yes, a third grader should learn this. The state's telling us, and they a lot of times control our curriculum. And then I think if somebody disagrees with a parent, it's just good to communicate and talk about it. Doesn't mean you have to agree on everything or anybody has to change their mind, but just talking about it and hearing somebody else's perspective.
As Ms. Lee said, excuse me, the state has guidelines on what curriculum can be used and what we cannot teach. So we are limited in some of those things. We can't just pull something out of thin air and start talking about something that's not within the approved state guidelines from DESE. And so, you know, that's the first guideline and grounding of where that comes from. We have intelligent, trained people who are in charge of the curriculum in different parts. One of the things that I love about Hannibal is very much, I mean, the slogan, hometown, America's hometown. Hannibal is a hometown. And we know and grow up and be a part of who these different teachers are. These teachers are our cousins, our neighbors, you know, and so these are the people that are helping to develop the curriculum. And I feel very comfortable knowing that it's these people who are doing it. We don't hire this to come out of you know, Texas or coming out of California. We're not buying textbooks from all that and having them teach us that. We're learning from the people who are developing it that are our neighbors. I think it's important to listen. I think it's always important, and I hope that the school board can always listen and learn from the people that they disagree with. It's very important that the school board also maintains their values and stands up for themselves. So if there's a disagreement, we should all be able to disagree and continue on.
Well, the key word in the question is control. We should not have control of the curriculum. Should we have general knowledge of the curriculum? Absolutely. Should we be able to talk to parents about the curriculum and be knowledgeable of the curriculum? Absolutely. The control of the curriculum, and I remember the meetings that we had in middle school. You look at where a student is, and you go back and you look at a state standard, and you look at a substandard, and you see exactly how they are achieving. And you work into the curriculum those things. So when you talk about control of the curriculum, you're talking about the teachers, the principals, the APs, assistant principals, Sean Brown, the assistant superintendent, and Susan Johnson. Mrs. Johnson is a person that is going to be there to look and guide all of those people that are doing the curriculum K through 12. Sean is a person that's going to be there and be active within the curriculum itself, those decisions. We need to make sure we have an idea of what's in the curriculum. And as far as disagreement, I didn't know anybody disagreed with things from the school. But that's actually happening. Disagreements, you know, I don't call it disagreement. I call them conversations. You have to be able to communicate with anybody. I don't care where they come from. I don't care where they're going. You need the communication with people.
Right, so each of you have another minute to just do a closing remark or anything else that you want to say, but I just ask you as a framework to just hold in the back of your mind and answer the question, how would your election improve our school board? I think the cycle worked out, so that you're first.
So when I'm elected to school board, I'm going to improve things by starting conversations, asking questions, seeking answers, putting that transparency out there before boards so that we can get the information to the parents and to our community so that they can be present, so that they can come and they can express their concerns to the board. They can notify them beforehand. I'm a huge communicator. I love to talk, I love to ask questions, I love to seek out what other people are thinking and how their thoughts are going to impact my child, your child, the entire district. So I think that's pretty much my voice, my strong voice. That's the number one thing that I have when it comes to being on a board, and especially this board.
Politicians are always fond of saying that it's all about the kids. In this case, the school board, it really is all about the kids. You know, I'm a parent. I love my kids. I know all the other parents out there love their kids too. And just want the best for the kids. I mean, that's all it is just want the best environment, the best education that we can offer. And as a school board member, you know, that will always be my focus, is what's good for the kids. And right underneath that, because they're foundational to the kids, is the teachers. What's best for the teachers? Because the teachers are the key to success. So what's best for the teachers, what's going to help them out? And I would try to think about those things first with all the decisions we make. The other thing that I will guarantee is that if I'm sitting on a school board, I will be very inquisitive and ask a lot of questions and try to have a lot of public discussions. I really feel like the best boards that I work with and work for are the boards that think things through from different perspectives, talk out how each decision is going to impact, what impact it's going to have. And here, when we're talking about that, we're talking about our kids. How's it going to impact our kids? And that's what we need to focus on and think about and ask these questions every time. When a decision impacts the teachers, you know, that's important. And we need to understand how it's going to impact the teachers, because that's ultimately going to impact our kids. And that's all.
I think something that a unique perspective I would bring as a member of the school board is I've been around this place for a long time. I've seen the inner workings from a teacher's perspective. And I'm a teacher's teacher. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I love to do. I love teaching, and I think our kids are everything. That should be our primary focus. But if our teachers aren't happy, ain't nobody happy. You have to support your teachers and make sure that they're in a position where they can bring out the very best in those students. And I think my experience, I've seen a lot of superintendents come and go in 31 years, and I can tell you, you're in good hands. I can also tell you that I know what works and what doesn't work. And I hope I will always have an ear. You can feel like you can come in and talk to me or ask me or anything. I will always be there to communicate with you.
I hope if I'm re-elected that I can continue to serve. I think I have a unique perspective because I was a teacher for 10 years and then I've been out of it, so I can see both sides of the table. And I think as a board member, you grow and you change, and the board member I am today is nothing like the board member I think I was my first year I was on the board, because I think you learn to see things differently, and I think that's good. I've grown, I've changed, and I just think I have something to give to the community, and education is the most important thing we can give to our children. Nothing else matters. If they do not have that, they're not set up in life to be successful. So I just want to be able to help continue to provide that to our children and then support our teachers, because without our teachers, we can't do any of this.
It may sound strange, but one of the things that when I looked at the board and looked at things is diversity. It's kind of strange to sit here, all of us look pretty non-diverse, but in a very real sense, when you look at our board, there is a commonality of ages within an age range within our board. I was very glad that Tysa joined our board. I was very glad that the city of Hannibal, the citizens of Hannibal brought her on to add that voice. And while I look like all the rest of them, I do have a little more years of age on myself than the other board members. Linda, you know, I haven't quite caught up with you, but you know, I'm working on it. Yeah, and then my experience as a healthcare leader. One of the things that I loved about my job in Hannibal, at Beth Haven, was actually that there's an opportunity to be an entrepreneur. Beth Haven gave me that opportunity to look and to spend out and to do different things. And one of the things that I've been very pleased with, as you hear the plans and the ideas coming from administration here, is that there's an entrepreneurship within our school. You know, that agriculture, that little greenhouse in front of the building, in front of the middle school, is quite a little building. You know, they're growing fish there. They're teaching the kids how to do a lot of different things. We're reaching out and finding things, and I think that entrepreneurship is one thing that I can bring to the board.
Linda, I loved working with you on the board, and I think you look much younger than me. You're always beautiful, and you've been that way forever. So you're a very nice lady. What do I bring to the board? What will I bring to the board? 28 years of educational experience, experience in curriculum, experience as a teacher, a coach, a principal, an assistant principal, an activities director. I've done it all. Somebody was over here and we were talking about all the things that, all the hats that I've worn in education. I heard a lot of things about supporting teachers, and this is what I always told everybody. If you don't feed the teachers, they'll eat the kids. That's what happens. So you have to make sure that you are taking those teachers into account. You hold them to a high esteem, and you make sure that you are there to mentor them. And that goes for our coaches too. That goes for our coaches. We have to mentor our coaches, and we have to teach our coaches how to coach. So the school system is very diverse. Was there a second part to your question? No?
It's your time.
I got it all? Okay. Well, as a board member, somebody asked me when I retired, they said, did you love every second of education? And I said, nope, but I loved every kid. I loved every kid. I did. It was incredible. They were like my kids. The only reason I have Facebook is not to go to things happening in Hannibal. It's because all of my kids still contact me from Washington, D.C. to Washington, the state of, and I love talking to them. So that's what I would bring to the board.
I want to thank you all for making it a priority to be here this evening. You took time out of your busy schedules to find out what we're about, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your time. My family, we moved here 13 years ago, as I mentioned, and this community embraced my family. And we have learned to love this community. We love being part of it, serving in it, and getting to know new people all the time. It's been a great privilege to be part of this community. I didn't grow up here, and I have a life experience that took me from Michigan to Wisconsin to Northern Illinois, back to Wisconsin, and I never even heard about Hannibal, Missouri. Shame on my teachers. Never. Well, I heard about Mark Twain, but I mean, you know, it's all fictitious in my mind. So, But anyway, the first time I heard about Hannibal, Missouri is when Hannibal Grange University invited me to come down and become their head wrestling coach. I had already worked at another university and coached there. But in that experience, I've literally been in hundreds of schools throughout the nation. I've met hundreds of administrators. I've met thousands of parents and thousands of athletes as I've been involved in recruiting and looking at their different schools. I've seen some really, really good schools, and I've seen some really, really bad schools. And I don't think Hannibal Public School District is a bad school district. I think we can make it better. And that's what my goal is to do, is to help parents have the same type of experience in their children's education experience that my kids have had. And for those who haven't had good experiences, try to address those things, make them better, and be a team player, be part of this community, and make sure that our school district is one where parents feel like their student is going to get an excellent education. And I also want our teachers to feel like Hannibal Public Schools is a great place to work. And I want to leave you with this: trust the Lord, buy a Ford, vote for Hawes for school board.